Hey, what's happening everyone? Welcome to what I hope will be a new set of videos showing how I make stuff. My name's Dan and you can see what I do under the name Buckethead Props on Facebook and YouTube and the like. Now I recently got myself my first 3D printer. It's the assembled Prusa i3 Mark II, and I thought what better way to test it out, to sort of break it in, and to build an awesome prop to add to my collection. As you can probably tell by the hat, my new hat, I am a big Star Wars fan and thought what better way than to build a prop from Star Wars. I am a regular on Star Wars Battlefront, probably play a little too much, but I thought let's build something from that. We're going to build the impact grenade, one of the unlockable grenades in the game. Bit trickier to use than some of the others, but I thought I'd show you guys how I did it. So, without further ado, let's build. So I mainly decided to build this because of the awesome file I found on Thingiverse. I'm still working on my own 3D modelling skills, so printing someone else's model was a good place to start for me. This awesome file by BluePop4 is right here, and you can just download it by clicking right here. Next, I opened up the parts in my slicing software. I'm using Prusa's own recommended slicer software, and just imported the parts like so. I arranged however many I wanted on the print bed, gave a little slice, checked all the layers, and then simply exported the G-code to the printer. These were printed in Prusa's own silver PLA at a 0.2mm layer height. I didn't time it, but it probably took 7 to 8 hours to print all the pieces, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. The pieces were then all assembled with super glue. The tolerances on this print are actually really tight, so a few parts needed a bit of sanding before they press fitted together really nicely. I also had some resin lying around, so I decided to fill the center cavity to add a bit of weight to the overall prop. Next, the piece was coated in Smooth-On's XTC 3D, a 2-part epoxy filler designed for exactly this purpose, to fill in all those layer lines which are one of the tells of 3D printing. I used the foam brush provided, it came with the kit, it's a nice little chisel tip and it worked fine for me. It does only come with one, so if I'm going to use it again I'm going to have to get some more. It went on really well, made it nice and smooth. I let it sit for about 24 hours just so it could set up properly. If you do use it for your projects, be sure to read the instructions and use it in a well ventilated area, as this stuff smells nasty. I wanted to see how well the XTC 3D took paint right off the bat, so I went straight to it without any sanding in between. Remember when painting to always use suitable protection such as a respirator to stop the inhalation of all the nasty fumes that come off the cans. For this I used a regular old grey spray primer as the first layer. Be sure to always read the label and take note of the cure time of the paint. Let it dry before moving forward. Over the grey I used a flat black as my base colour. Both of these paints I got from Halfords, an automotive store here in the UK. Once it's dried I went in with the detailing, putting on the silver accents. I used a gilding product called Goldfinger for the silver. The US equivalent would be Rub and Buff. This turned out to be a bit tricky and I would recommend a paint for any new users. However, the paint did thin with enamel thinners, which allowed it to go on a bit more easily, but I'd still go with paint if I had to do it again. Whilst this was drying, I sorted out my metal parts. Yes, metal parts. Actual metal. This thing is covered in essentially washers and bolts, so rather than printing them all out, I went to my local hardware store and bought the real equivalent. You'll need 12 of each. The thread I found worked best was M4, as it's 4mm wide. So I cut down 12 short pieces off a longer rod. I also got 12 washers. and 12 nuts. I did print off one set of the washers and nuts just to take along with me so I could get the right size. Also, in my local hobby store I found some 3mm steel rod, at least I think it's steel, for the square ring thing. This I just bent to shape using my hobby vise, working my way around till I had the right shape. I will just say this comes out a little bigger than you might expect, as the bends take up a bit more material than you might think, so just allow for that if you're going to make your own. Next came the fun part of putting it all together. Each nut got glued to a thread with super glue, and then the washer glued under that. The holes in the grenade had to be drilled out a little bit to fit the rod size, but these were then glued in place, one after the other. Once these are in, I installed my square ring thing. The way you see me doing it here didn't really work. If you open it outwards, you can never get it to close all the way back in again, even using the vise. The best thing to do is use a jeweler's trick. Open it upwards, slide one side in, then bend the other back down. This was then on pretty securely. The game art also shows some kind of tape or wrap here on the ring, so I used some black electrical tape I had lying around to add that on just there. Just round and round till it looks good. You may have also seen I wanted to have something a little extra into my build, so I decided to put a button into the bit that looks like a button here at the top. To do this I had to drill out the housing to take the button that I already had. This didn't go so well and, well, ripped off the housing. But some filling and super glue later and all is well, and it clicks. Yeah. Onto the home stretch. Now comes my favourite part, the weathering. Up to now the paint job has been kind of janky. It doesn't look great when you just add the base colours on, it looks a bit horrible. So you gotta add some grime and nasties just to bring it to life. I use water mixable oil colours for this, as they look and feel like oil and grease. The only downside to these is they take a while to dry. If you want quicker results, just go with acrylic paint or something like that, and it'll dry much faster, sort of overnight. I just apply the paint with my favourite crappy brush and wipe off the excess with a paper towel. This is repeated till I am happy. Lastly, once this was dry, about a week later, I added some light scratches using a silver paint and dry brushing it on. I used a similar crappy brush, loaded it up, wiped most of the paint off, and then did light passes over the edge where paint would naturally come off. Just be careful not to go overboard with this, especially on an item like a grenade. I'm guessing they don't get much weathering before they're used. The last step was to hit everything with a clear coat to protect our paint job and seal in all our hard work. And that's it guys, a cracking new prop to add to my collection. This will go proudly up on the shelf. Be sure to check me out on Facebook and also on my website, where I do a full write-up of each of the builds that I do. Be sure to subscribe to be the first to see any future videos. I hope to see you again, and of course, may the force be with you. Take care.